Nation of Fit in 10, welcome to day 18. And before we get into today's topics, reminder, send us your feedback. We've only gotten 3 from last week. The fact that we haven't received them yet, yeah, okay, fair enough, but we should have had your feedback in from the week before, okay? So make sure you do that. Go to your email that you get from me every week. In there is a link for you to provide your feedback. It asks in the email for you to provide your feedback to us. So hopefully you're reading that entire email that I sent you.
All right, let's talk about the questions that we got this week. The first one is about meal planning yet again. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, so there's a question about tips for meal planning. So, the first, this is going to sound perhaps mundane, but these are things that you have to do if you want to be successful in the meal planning portion. You've got to, 1, pre-make the foods that you like, okay? And obviously the foods that are acceptable in the challenge. So you need to find the proteins that you like and have them ready to go. So whether this is chicken or it's fish, or some other kind of poultry, turkey or something like that, maybe you're going to have some, maybe it's going to be smoked salmon, maybe it's going to be cottage cheese, maybe it's going to be hard-boiled eggs, maybe it's going to be Greek yogurt, maybe it's going to be ground bison, maybe it'll be eye-round steak.
Oh my God, can
or
we
flank
move
steak.
on? Anyway,
You need to have these ready to go in advance. It's that simple.
Okay, so-
And those are all protein sources, of course.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know. The same goes for carbohydrate sources.
yeah, but I was actually going to mention, and that's interesting that you would talk about the carbs, that, the protein is the one that takes the longest to, either purchase or defrost or cook, and that if you have the protein in already, that's like you're way ahead of the game. You know what I mean? Because most of the people will just arrive at their meal and be like, oh my God, my chicken is frozen where the potato is available. So you're right to talk about the protein. If you have the protein in, that's like 90% of the job is done. But you wanted to say also to pre-prepare, of course, your carbohydrates, but also your portions, right?
Yeah, you want to have these foods. It'll make it easier for you if you have them prepared, and then not only just prepared, but pre-portioned out into certain meals. So you can do meals that are, let's just say, I'm just throwing it out here, but let's say 30 grams of protein and 40 grams of carbs. Okay, and then let's not worry about the fat right now because fat will come along with some of those foods. Leave the fat out at the moment. And so what's that going to look like? Okay, well, that's going to look like something, if we're looking at 30 grams of protein, that's going to be something like 3.5 ounces of cooked chicken breast, and then something along the lines of an 8-ounce, boiled potato or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just need to have these things pre-planned and ready to go. Think basic foods.
Yeah.
We are eating for purpose here. Doesn't mean that your food has to be plain and boring, but we are eating for purpose. Okay, we want foods that are going to not only just calorically and macronutrient wise fulfill our our end goal, but we want foods that are full of nutrition as well.
Yeah.
Okay, and we've got to think basic for that.
Yeah, and I think that one of your tips as well was to keep the junk away, right? So there's nothing worse than not be prepared with your meals and also have all these very highly palatable and bad foods for you just like right there on the table. I mean, if I'm really hungry and my chicken is not ready and my potatoes are not ready and my vegetables are not available and I have cheese and crackers on hand, then most likely I'll end up eating those. So one of the things that we need to do is pre-plan.
Yeah, we've got to keep those foods that call your name, that are not so good for you, that you're not supposed to have. We've just got to keep those
Out of the house.
Yeah, so they're not even an option to you, even though they shouldn't be an option. But you want to make this as easy as you can on yourself. But first and foremost, pre-plan and pre-portion your foods that you enjoy and are acceptable and are going to be supportive for you in the challenge. Protein sources, carbohydrate sources.
Absolutely. And so when you eat that much whole food, what happens when you get full?
Well, if you are really full, if you are legitimately full and you can't get in all the food, I'm going to tell you don't force it, obviously. But what I tend to see, people are asking me this question, multiple people have asked me this question, but at the same time in their journal I see things like, I don't know, a granola bar or
Cake.
lemon cake or something that is just, this is completely off limits. So, if you're full, I don't know why you're eating those foods. So, you should be just eating those real whole foods and then not resorting to these other foods. Because in essence, what's happening here is you're going to be getting foods that have less nutrition, and then you're going to be getting less of the foods that provide the nutrition. And remember, we're already in a calorie deficit here. So we want to make sure that we're getting the good foods. So if you're going to eat even less because you are, quote, full, make sure that you're getting those real whole foods, the ones that provide the most nutrition. Okay.
Yeah, and some people actually are able to eat more frequently, right? So one of the ways that you could do that is by splitting your meals. We want whole food, but there are some foods that go down much faster, like yogurt, like
Smoothies.
Smoothies, yeah, would work really well. I really like really dense, nutritious food. Like I really like, for example, ground meat, whether it be turkey or chicken or beef. I have the feeling that you can just eat more of those rather than a chicken breast, for example, or a fillet of fish, right? So if you're the kind of person that is like, oh my God, this is just too much food, maybe go that way. I've noticed, for example, that if I ask you to make an egg white omelet, and then I say, let's have a half a carton of egg whites, so you can meet like a 35-gram protein intake, a lot of people will think that that's too much. But if you make those egg whites in egg white cups with vegetables, in the oven, like in the muffin tin, instead, you could probably eat those, by hand. You can have the entire half a carton with no problem. So it's just a question of like where it comes from, like how it's made. So, tips of the sort would work really well for you.
Yeah, and this is something where, we've always got to keep in mind why we're doing this, right? That we're doing this for purpose. We've got to keep in mind of our end goal, and always be conscious of the foods that we're choosing. And, this is why you're going to hear me say this over and over again. You've got to pre-plan your food. You have to pre-plan. Think about this in advance, with this end goal that we're working towards. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So next we're thinking, we're asked again about mid-afternoon snacks. And when asked that question, I always say I just have a meal personally, right? So I have stepped away from things like, eggs is only for breakfast, shake is only a snack, and I can easily have, chicken, rice, and broccoli for breakfast myself. But in the afternoon, I can see how maybe if you're at work, it would be better for you not to have, a full-on, fillet of fish or something of the sort. So we came up with like just a handful of them. What were your ideas? You were thinking about oatmeal?
Yeah, first and foremost, I'll just say just quickly here, there are lots of good little ideas in this booklet, so please make sure you look at it towards the center. There's a bunch of recipes in there, but some good go-tos that I go to that, I really don't know, I guess, what the difference between a snack and a meal is, but let's just consider a snack maybe a slightly smaller meal.
I was thinking like more portable as well. That's the only way I can see it. Just in the sense, like I said, of not pulling out your full meal in the middle of your office. Yeah.
So one of my go-tos that I really, really enjoy, especially if I'm looking for something that's going to provide some level of sweetness, is I like to do some plain yogurt, mix in some vanilla protein powder, whey protein powder in there. I say whey because it's got a better taste. And then adding in some fruit to that. Mm-hmm. Okay, and sometimes I'll add some oatmeal as well. Mm-hmm. And I'll actually just mix it up into like a goulash.
Yeah, or and with a little, and if you can afford it, also a few nuts is really nice for crunch.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like some pecans or something.
Yeah, something nice.
Yeah.
We have, all shakes are very easily transportable. I really like shakes because you can really nail, we have a few recipes in there, you can really nail the protein, carb, and fat so easily in a shake, right? And you put it in the fridge when you get to work, you have it in the middle of the afternoon, avoid the afternoon crash. It's just perfect.
And remember, when we're saying shakes, these are these are protein shakes, or protein smoothies, right?
Yes, of
Because
course.
because every time you eat,
you gotta have protein.
your foundation is going to be your protein. So you
Alright.
got to remember that. One other thing I really enjoy, cottage cheese. Although it's hard to find a good cottage cheese, to be honest with you, but I do like. I think is it Dairyland or Dairy something? It's the one
No.
at Costco. No, what is that?
No, I don't remember the name, but it's not that one because you told me that there were stuff in there. We'll find a name for you.
No, I mean I enjoy the taste of that one, but I don't normally recommend it. Anyways, cottage cheese and fruit is another great one. You know, a cottage cheese and berries, or cottage cheese and orange. I like. I mean, apple goes well as
All right. So what's the word of the day?
in addition. The word of the day or the message of the day?
You know.
Words of the day. We have messages of the day. What is the message of the day? Yeah, we got to get to that because we're over 10 minutes. Today's message of the day is. Where are we here?
Challenges. Limits.
Yes. Don't limit your challenges. Rather,
Challenge your limits.
yes, challenge your limits. You've got to push yourself beyond what you're comfortable with. You've got to, in some cases, get creative, and ultimately ask yourself again and again, why are you doing this? Become more conscientious of what you're doing every time you sit down to eat, or maybe you're on the go. But ultimately, you've got to pre-plan to be successful in this challenge. It's the only way it's going to happen. You can't, as I've mentioned before, you cannot wing this, right, Martina? You can't wing this. You have to get yourself in order, just like you would for any other goal that you're pushing towards. There's a plan. You have a goal for whatever it is, your business, a project. There is a certain blueprint you have to follow. You have to do the same for this, okay? So pre-plan your food in advance. Make sure every meal is protein-based. Most important thing, okay? Anything you want to add? Okay. Positive energy, positive vibes, believe yourself, for the love of God, give some gratitude, and we'll talk to you all tomorrow. No, we won't. We'll talk to you all in a couple days. That's just from a lot of different videos I've done in the past.